What's up, guys? Welcome to Neek, which stands for Nerd/Geek, and if that relates to you, I would consider clicking that subscribe button. And yeah, funny story, well, not so funny story, I am really behind on my Mandalorian reviews. I said I'd do them like every week, except, yeah, just lots of stuff happened, so I was a little bit late on making my episode 2 review, so episode 3 had just come out, and then right after episode 3 comes out, I leave for like a week for Thanksgiving, and then by then that fourth episode of The Mandalorian's already out, so I'm already behind. And when I get back, it's the week with a bunch of trailers, so then I have to do my Black Widow video for the trailer and Wonder Woman, so then I'm behind. The 5th episode comes out, and then Crisis on Infinite Earth comes out, and so also I spent a bunch of time trying to catch up on the Arrowverse shows to be ready for it, and then just got busy, and then I finally made my Crisis on Infinite Earths video. And then episode 6 came out. So yeah, now there's 4 episodes that have come out since I last did a review. So I thought I'm not gonna catch up because looking at my what's gonna happen, the new episode of The Mandalorian, episode 7, comes out tomorrow, and then the next day, Thursday, is when I'm seeing The Rise of Skywalker. So I'm gonna do a Rise of Skywalker like spoiler-free review probably on that Friday, and then I'll do a spoiler review that weekend, and I want to do a ranking. That's when I go on Christmas break, so I can do a lot more videos. So I'm gonna do a spoiler review for The Rise of Skywalker, and then a ranking of all the Star Wars movies, maybe a couple other Star Wars videos, and then as we get that, during the break, I'm gonna catch up on all the different movies that came out in the last couple weeks that I missed. Like, I'll go see them in the theater, and then I'll review them on here, and then also I'll watch when the 9th episode of The Mandalorian comes out, I'll put a review out for that, and then do a like recap video of all what I thought of the entire season, and then that will be like go up to the end of the year, and I'll do a bunch of like end of the year videos where I'll like rank all the movies I saw because it's the end of the decade. I'm just thinking of a bunch of ideas I can do with it. So my schedule is pretty packed. That's basically what I'm gonna do from here on out. So I'm like, yeah, I really need to just combine these videos. So I'm gonna do a mini review for each episode. I'm gonna go through doing a review, and yeah, let's get started. First episode, starting off, is episode 3, which is titled The Sin. So this episode, up until the 6th episode, this was my favorite episode of the series. I love this episode. So we have him, as you see, he's kind of, in the last 2 episodes, he's kind of made a connection with Baby Yoda, except now he has to turn him in to get his bounty. And then, so that's what happens. You have him turning in to get his bounty, return to the planet from the first episode. And then as he turns it in, you can see how he's like, what are you gonna do with him? And like, that's against the guild and stuff. So you learn they're not supposed to do what's with it. And I thought this part was great. I thought Pedro Pascal did a really good job at acting, and the way that, I don't know, it was just really great at, even when he has the mask on and he doesn't talk a whole lot, he was able to convey so much emotion, and like especially in the scene where he like goes into the ship about to leave, and then he sees like the little ball thing that goes on the like thing on the spaceship, and he realizes like he wants to go back for Baby Yoda. I thought you saw all the emotion without seeing the emotion. I thought that was great. And then you also get a return of some of the other characters from the first episode, like Carl Weathers' character and Winter Herzog's character, the client. And then you also get to see, another thing I really liked about this episode is you get to see more into the actual Mandalorians. You get a little glimpse of them in the first episode, but now we get to go deeper inside, learning about how they don't take off their helmet, and like about the different stuff about how they have like signets and stuff, and more stuff about their religion. And it seems like the Mandalorian was kind of like adopted into it. And when you see him normally in a fight, you think if he's like one of like the strongest or like best fighters in the galaxy, but seeing him up against the other Mandalorians you see he's not like, it doesn't seem like he's the best out of all these Mandalorians. It kind of seems like the I don't know what to say, but like the smaller one in comparison, especially to the one other Mandalorian. And then you also get him, because he does turn in Baby Yoda, he gets all the metal, and he gets to make this new suit, and the new suit looks awesome. So that's all I have to say about it. And then as you go, and then this episode really picks up when he decides to go get back Baby Yoda, and since then it doesn't stop until the very end. It's just great. So you have, the action scenes are really great. You got these two different ones that are like kind of connected, but it's like different, and they're good in different ways. So we have him like sneaking around, just taking out the stormtroopers one by one, like, and that's just cool to see him like using all his different like gadgets and stuff, sneaking around, taking them all out, and finding himself to get out of the situations, like when he has to use the like missile things on his arm. So that's just a really cool scene. And the action was handled really well by the director of this episode, Deborah Cho, who is going to like be the showrunner, I think, or director for the Obi-Wan series, which is another series I'm really excited about. I mean, it's from Deborah Cho, who I loved her doing this episode. I'm totally on board with that. And then as we go through, we see once he takes Baby Yoda, there's all the other bounty hunters who get called to like stop him, and you have him like completely surrounded, or oh wow, something's gonna go down. And then you see him like trying to outsmart them, even though it's like 1 to, I don't know, it seemed like 20 like bounty hunters. He's like able to like jump into the ship, and it looks like he might be able to do it himself. And then they stop him, and he like looks at, you have this nice scene where he's like looking at Baby Yoda, and he like accepts the fact that he's gonna die. And then you get the moment that just made me put the biggest grin on my face when all the Mandalorians come in. It was just an awesome scene. Just really, really cool scene. You see them like fighting with their jetpacks, using their machine guns and stuff. I just loved that. And then you get this, at the end you get this like showdown with him and Carl Weathers. As you can see, Carl Weathers like throughout it, he had the chance to shoot him, but he like shoots the droid to stop him, because you can tell like even though he's supposed to like kill him, he doesn't fully want to kill him. He doesn't seem like an evil person, Carl Weathers. And as you see, he's like, I'm gonna have to do it. But then of course the Mandalorian tricks him and shoots him, and he's not actually dead because it hit him with the metal thing. But then the Mandalorian goes off, and yeah, it's the end of the episode. So yeah, just a great episode, and this really just got me pumped for the series overall. So now we have episode 4, which is called Sanctuary, and I thought this was another good episode. Not as good as the third episode in my opinion, but still pretty good. I mean, I kind of seemed like after the third one, they'd be like it would be like one big story, not like smaller like side episode stories, but that's not what happens in this episode. You have him going to this other planet with Baby Yoda. They're gonna try to like lay low for a couple months, and here you meet the second main character in this episode, which is Cara Dune, and I thought she was a pretty good character. Of course, you don't see a lot of her, but I liked what you see of her. And you get this like fight between them, which is pretty cool. And then the great moment where they're like pointing blasters at their head, and then Baby Yoda just walks up. And like this episode, Baby Yoda is like always something that just adds to each episode. But in this episode, I thought it was really funny and great. And yeah, so you have him shoot the thing, and then you also get the setup. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode, you see this like village. They're just like farmers or like krill farmers get attacked by this like army of like things. They look like orcs from Lord of the Rings, but they're not. They're from Star Wars. So they get attacked by it, and then they need someone's help. So they go to the Mandalorian, like, can you help us? And then Mandalorian, of course, doesn't want to do it at first, but then he decides to when he figures out about that it's in like this in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool. And then what am I saying? Oh yeah, and then he's gonna help defend it with the help of Cara Dune, and then but then you figure out that there's this ATST that is helping. So then they gotta train the villagers to get ready for this fight. That's kind of the main premise, and I thought that's a pretty cool premise for an episode, having these two like trained soldier people like teaching this village like to fight. I mean, it's been done in some other things, but I mean, it's still cool. And then also this episode is directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who you might recognize as Claire from the Jurassic World movies. And she's also the daughter of Ron Howard, who directed Solo. So that's just something interesting. And this is her directorial debut, and I think she does a good job handling. There's just some cool shots in here, and she also does a good job with action scenes. But you also can tell that, I mean, she did work on Jurassic World, and there's a couple little Jurassic World vibes with like the ATST, kind of like reminding you kind of like the T-Rex in the first Jurassic Park. But yeah, so going on, like, you also get to see the Mandalorian kind of form this relationship with this like widow in the village. I think it's pretty cool to see more of the Mandalorian's humanity, and you can definitely see how he wants to just take off the helmet and start a life with her, but then there's like the thing holding him back, because that's not who he is. He was raised as a Mandalorian. But then as we go through for this final battle after they train, and the widow actually is like really good with shooting with the blaster that kind of came out of nowhere. Not came out of nowhere, it's kind of just a random thing that happens. And then there's also a couple other like people in the village, like there's the couple like comic relief characters who I didn't think were like too funny, but I mean they have a couple funny lines. And then you also get Baby Yoda hanging out with all the kids, which is just a really fun part of the episode. And you get the thing where he starts to eat a frog, like in the second episode where he eats it, but then they're like, ew, so he spits it out to show that he's learning and can understand people. But as you go to this like final part with the battle, you have Cara Dune and the Mandalorian like first going into the place to like draw him out. And this is the cool part because you get to see them, like the Mandalorian and her, doing like a lot of hand-to-hand combat, which is something we don't get a lot in Star Wars. So I thought it was pretty cool that we have it here. And then as they go through, it just has a cool battle that I feel like this feels right for like the end of an episode battle. Not a full-on end of the movie, but like a good end of an episode where it's big enough, it's long enough, but not like too big or too long for this episode, like just in the middle of the series. And it's a bunch of fun, like how they decide to like trick the ATST into falling. There's a lot of drama, like intense moments, like where you like, is it gonna step in? Just step in. And then as they're going out to attack it, so I just thought this was a good episode. Of course, it doesn't move the plot too much, but again, that's just not what the show is, I guess. I've learned to accept that this show isn't going to be like, there's lots of shows that are like this, are miniseries, and they're basically just a movie spread out between like 4 hours or like 8 hours almost into like 8 different parts. And this isn't what this show is. It's more like an actual show with the different episodes are like different stories. So, I mean, I was kind of like disappointed at first that they're doing this, but then I guess it was just kind of what I thought they would be doing initially. So I got used to them doing this more like episodical approach, and I actually think it works pretty well for a character like the Mandalorian, who is like a bounty hunter. So I think that works really well. So, yep. That's all I have to say about episode 4. So now moving on to episode 5, which is called The Gunslinger, but it could be called Fan Service. Well, that's a joke, but it does have quite a bit of fan service in here. Of course, because the main thing, it mainly takes place on Tatooine, and when they first revealed, like, this is Mos Eisley tower or something, like, wait, Mos Eisley? And I went back to make sure I heard her run, like, this is Mos Eisley. That's Tatooine. I see 2 suns. And then he goes into Tatooine. You see a bunch of different places. Like, you see Mos Eisley Kanta, and just like a bunch of fan service with like Tusken Raiders and stuff. So it did. Of course, this episode is directed by Dave Filoni, who did the Clone Wars and stuff, and he seems to really like different connections to different Star Wars things. And I'm not one of those people who's like, it's just fan service is bad, because why would you want to give something fans like? That doesn't make sense. I'm not one of those people who like hates fan service, because like that's stupid. If you're a fan of something, why would you hate fan service? But I mean, too much of it could be a problem. This episode, the fan service didn't really bother me that much, except like one moment when they go to when they're traveling on the Mandalorian and the other dude, when they're traveling and they get stopped by Tusken Raiders, and it's just a scene that doesn't do anything. It just kind of stops the forward momentum just to have a scene with Tusken Raiders. Remember these from the original Star Wars movies? Well, we have them here. So that's the only moment that really bothered me. The rest I think fit. But anyway, I kind of started this off differently. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the episode. So you start off with the episode with this like battle where he's fighting a spaceship battle between someone else who's hunting him. It's pretty cool as he's getting like shot at. He like yeets on the brakes and then blows up the other dude. But of course he's in a lot of damage, so that's why he actually has to go to Tatooine. But just to seeing a space battle between the 2 spaceships and a TV show, and it looks good. It's just like something just crazy, because of course I talked about this before. The Mandalorian has one of the biggest budgets for any TV show ever, and I think this puts it on display that lots of shows wouldn't dare to do this. But you get not a full-on giant space battle, but you get this like spaceship battle between these 2 ships, which lots of TV shows couldn't do. And then so he goes to Tatooine at Mos Eisley, and his ship is really damaged and he needs to prepare. So there's this other person who I thought was like pretty funny character to add in, who like needs to repair it, but he needs money for it. So he has to go find a job here. And so as you figure out, he goes to Mos Eisley Kanta, but the guild doesn't work in Tatooine. They don't do stuff there. But then he meets up with this person who's in the guild, who like pretends to be like, I've been here for a long time, even though it's his first job and he's trying to get in. So the Mandalorian agrees to help him, because the dude doesn't want to keep the money. He just wants to get into the guild. So they go off on this journey and it's to get, what am I saying? It's, the bounty is like a really like, great assassin. So it's like a dangerous job. So they go off right into speeders. Well, before that, the person who's repairing Mando's ship meets, Baby Yoda comes out of the ship, and then she's like, so of course, I mean, the Mandalorian must not be that good of a parent. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just left the baby in the ship. That's not what you do. But anyway, so she decides to like take care of the Baby Yoda to make him pay more. But then you go back to the Mandalorian and this other bounty hunter going on and this is where the Tusken Raiders things. Then you get to this fight scene between them two and then the assassin person, and because she has the high ground with the sniper, they decide to wait it out until nightfall, and then they come up with this plan where they're gonna ride fast and use these flares to like stop her vision. And I thought it was a pretty cool scene, like seeing them riding across the night using these like flare things. And then you have the Mandalorian's thing gets like shot down, but then and she's about to like shoot the Mandalorian, but then the other bounty hunter comes in and like fights her, and then but she's about to beat him, and then the Mandalorian shows up, so they defeat her, and then as it goes on, she tricks him into like telling, oh well, you know, this Mandalorian, this is the Mandalorian who has like a big bounty on his head, and if you could turn him into the guild, you'd be a legend and stuff. But then he's smart enough to like figure out he's tricking her about letting her go, so he shoots her and then decides to go take Baby Yoda because he figures out that's the actual thing, the bounty. And then the Mandalorian has to go chase after him, and then you get to this final battle or confrontation thing that I think this is like the worst like end climax of all of them. And so it's just him like pointing a gun at Baby Yoda, like, I'm gonna kill Baby Yoda, and then he shoots a flare thing, and then he shoots him, and that's it. So yeah, overall, this episode is probably my least favorite episode overall. It did have some stuff like going back to Tatooine, but I didn't really like this other bounty hunter. I didn't think he was the best actor. I thought he did okay, but like it could have been better, and it's not that long. It doesn't have that much happening in it, and it doesn't move the story at all, and it wasn't really a side plot that I found super interesting. So yeah, my least favorite episode. It's not bad. I'd still say it's pretty good, but not as good as the rest of the episodes. So now it's time to talk about episode 6, The Prisoner, which is the latest episode, and yeah, this episode is my favorite episode so far. So again, it's one of these more like episodical episodes, but I didn't really mind it at all because I thought it was really cool. It was a pretty cool plot line to do that was executed really well. So it's mainly about the Mandalorian going back to like people from his past, like these people he used to do jobs with, and then he has to help them break out someone from this like New Republic prison. So I think it's cool. The one cool thing about this episode is that it dives into the different things, like you get to see more about his past as him being a bounty hunter, and so I thought that was really cool. And then he like works with this crew to break him out, and I thought the crew was I liked some of them. They weren't the best. So Bill Burr was in it, and I liked his character a lot. I think he did a good job. And then there was this strong dude. I mean, I didn't really have any problems with him. I thought he was fine in it. And then you have the robot. Again, I just thought the robot was fine. And then you have this like one of the alien people who like knew Mando in the past, and I just thought she was kind of weird, and the performance was a little like over the top and stuff. Not a big fan of it. But so they have a plan. They're like, oh, we need your ship to use because it's not on the Imperial thing, and they have this whole plan to like break him out of prison, this person. And so they go to, as they're on their way, you get some scenes of when they're on the ship, they accidentally like reveal the place where Baby Yoda is, and they're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? But then they're like, is this just your pet? And they're like, I didn't think you'd be the person of a pet. And then the Mandalorian just plays it off like it's his pet. And then they also have a bunch of things how they want to take off his helmet and stuff, but he doesn't let him. But then as you go on to when they're going to break it out, I think this is when this episode starts getting really good. So the robot stays back and the rest of them go in, and then there's like these robots that come in, and then they're like, don't believe Mandalorian's like super as good as people say, but then he uses this to prove them wrong as he completely takes out these robots in the most awesome way possible, using all his gadgets and stuff, and it's just a really cool scene. And then as they go to break out the prisoner, it figures out it was the weird girl's brother who also knew the Mandalorian, and they trick the Mandalorian and lock him in instead, and they lock him in as like in replacing him, and then like, oh no, and then they're trying to get out of the place when the Mandalorian is able to get out of the jail cell using like this thing, using this other droid, and then he gets to the control room, and then the episode was good before. It was really good, but this is when this episode gets like really good, like great, when he just starts messing with them. He like splits them up into 2 different groups, like makes the lights like turns them off, and then like makes them like a bunch of things where they're flickering and stuff, and then you just get a scene as one by one he goes around and like takes them all out, and it kind of has like some horror vibes, which I thought was something interesting, but it's just really cool. And then you have a bunch of great moments with it, like when he's thinking of like the big strong guy, the muscle, like he tries closing the door on him, like the door, and it comes down, but he lifts it up, he's like, ah! And then he just closes the side door. It's like just a great moment like that. And then you have this other just great shot that they use where when he takes out Bill Burr's character, where he's like sneaking around, and then they use the flickering lights, and like each time the light flickers he's in a different place, and then like he's right behind him, and I just love when they do shots like that. I thought it was great. And then also like the more side plot thing, while this is going on, the robot like decodes this message from Carl Weathers' character and finds out that that he's hiding some bounty on the ship, and then he sees Baby Yoda, and then you get a bunch of like so you have him like chasing him around the ship, and then right as he's finally about to shoot him, Baby Yoda pulls up his hand to do a force. They do another fake out thing, and then you see that the Mandalorian was behind the robot and shoots him. But for a second I thought like Baby Yoda like reversed his bullet or something, or laser. I thought they're cool, but so that's with that. And then you see him coming back to the base, and he takes the one that he doesn't do anything with is the person who was in the jail. So he brings him back, and he's like, here, can I get my money? I were like, where's the rest of the crew? Like the guy who sent him off. He's like you're not supposed to ask questions. And then they're like, well, but then of course their whole goal was to get him trapped, so then they're like, well, that didn't work. So then they're like, so then he's like, kill him. But this is something I forgot to mention. So earlier on the episode, when they do this thing with, where they meet this like guard, and they told the Mandalorian it's only robots, and the Mandalorian hates robots, so he's fine with it, with this guard, and he's actually played by the person who plays Anakin in the Clone Wars, and then he like pulls up this thing, like, I'll put this he puts this tracker on him, like, to make it, because they're about to kill him and stuff, but then it's like this whole standout, but then like stare down, like, I'll shoot you. The Mandalorian's like, well, I'll shoot you, and I'll shoot you, and I'll put the tracker on you. But then the one weird girl just kills him. So, but using the tracker, he put it on the weird girl's brother. So then he's like, wait, what's this? And then you see a bunch of like people in X-Wings and Y-Wings, or maybe it's just X-Wing pop up, and they're like, here's one of our trackers. And then the Mandalorian like leaves, and then they blow up their place. So that was I just love this episode because you get to see the Mandalorian. Even throughout the series, we haven't seen him. He is like physically strong, and he can take down his enemies with force, and he's like good with the blaster and stuff. But his main strength in this series has been using his skills to outsmart his opponents, and I think that's a really cool trait to have in our main hero, instead of the guy who can just run through, just punching everyone, the one who outsmarts their opponents, I think is a cool thing. And then at the end you see that the people are in the jail cell, the people from the crew, he didn't actually kill them. So maybe they'll come back. There's only 2 episodes left, so I don't know. So I'm just going to do a quick little recap thing of what I think of the series overall, my predictions for the final 2 episodes, and just a couple things I missed. So one thing I missed, in the end of episode 5, it ends with these people, these pair of legs you see walk up to the body of the assassin, and so you just still haven't seen who that is. I think it's probably going to be this Imperial officer person you've seen in the trailers who still hasn't shown up in the show, but it could also be there's theories that it's Boba Fett, which I think, because it's on Tatooine, but I think that would be crazy if they actually did it. I don't actually think they're doing that, but it would be cool. But overall, talking about the show overall in general, at this point, I love this show. Even though they haven't really done much of moved the plot forward throughout, with only 2 episodes left, I feel like they should have done this more episodical thing. If we got at least 10 episodes, just a couple more. But it's fine. I just hope the 7th episode isn't another one of these episodical ones, because you really need to get this. I hope the final 2 episodes are kind of like this connected story, closing it out with Baby Yoda, learning more about him, learning more about the Mandalorians, bringing back all these side characters, because lots of these characters hasn't appeared in more than, no characters appear in more than 2 episodes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on episode 3 through 6 of The Mandalorian. Please like and subscribe, and keep watching Neek.